Okay, so as I was saying just now, so we are going to discuss two topics today. We're going to look into other methods of reviewing administrative law actions, which does not involve the court. And we are also going to look into the last chapter in our syllabus, that is information and access. Okay, so this one is under chapter 4, non-judicial review. And the last chapter is chapter 7, information and access. So let's have a look at non-judicial review first. So for non-judicial review, as I was saying just now, if we have discussed a judicial review, the concept is if you have any aggrieved matter, you feel your rights have been violated by any action of the administrators, then you can bring the case to the court. However, there are other avenues or institution or organization whereby you can also bring your case without bringing the case to court first. Meaning here, you can approach these bodies before you decided whether you want to bring the case to court eventually, because your rights to bring the case to court does not become absolved just because you bring your case to this institute or organization, which we called generally as either tribunals or forms of ombudsman or public complaint bureau. So that is the three different bodies that we're going to discuss today. Okay. So what are administrative tribunals? So administrative tribunals are bodies established by Parliament. So they are set up outside the court system, so they can hear disputes relating to administrative matters. If you have any complaints affecting yourself and the authorities, so you can bring the case to these tribunals. Nama-nama dia berbeza. Sometimes they are called commissioners, sometimes they are called tribunal, but it depends on their functions. But usually they are actually administrative tribunals. So what are the features of a tribunals? Usually they are free from administrative body, the administrative body itself, and they can make decision fairly. If you bring any case against the administrators and you wanted to bring it to this tribunal, they are a distinct body than the place or the ministry whereby the administrators work. Okay, and then their decision is made by the body. Usually they involve a panel members and not only just one sole person, and the decision can be binding. And the procedures is much more easier, not so complicated, and they are much more flexible from the courts. And then their existence is perpetual, forever, for as long as they're not abolished by the Parliament. So why do we set up these tribunals? Usually because there is an increase in the function and duty of administrators, so administrators now participate in more economic activities involving the communities. So with their involvement, so usually they will deal with more people, and because of that, they would be bound to be more disputes involved. And then, of course, when we talk about the court, in comparison to these administrative bodies, court usually takes a longer time. Tribunals only usually handle small cases relating only to the particular specialty of that particular tribunals, and then they are much more informal compared to the court. And of course, when we talk about expertise, usually if they handle a very specific kind of case, so they are very expert in the matter. Okay, nanti I bagi contoh tribunals yang kenapa kita kata dia lebih expert compared to the court. And then it is less costly compared to if you bring the case to court. Usually it will be much more, especially if you have to hire lawyers and whatnot. And in terms of freedom, a tribunal is an independent body juga, similar to court, and they can be neutral even if they're not the court themselves. Okay. But of course, tribunals have several disadvantages, of course. Even if the tribunals enjoy some form of freedom, as in the case of court, but there is no constitutional guarantee of their freedom. So sometimes, maksudnya di sini, dalam constitution itself, dalam perlembagaan negara kita, kita tak ada spesifik tempat untuk tribunal ni. Selalunya dia diwujudkan oleh akta lah. Dia tidak ada specific allocation in the constitution regarding tribunals. Not yet so far. Okay. And of course, there is still some connection lah between the tribunal members and the administrators. Sometimes the panels are involved, are bound by policies made by the departments, which can make the panels be less objective lah and biased. Sebab kadang-kadang mereka datang daripada mungkin daripada jabatan yang sama sebelum ni, jadi mereka mempunyai pandangan yang mungkin lebih kurang sama dengan kerajaan juga. Okay. The panels also do not necessarily have a wide knowledge in law because they are very specific. They have specific expertise only. Okay, and there are times when their decisions may be based only on opinions, based on whatever facts that they have presented to them. And of course, tribunals also do not have to give any rationales or reasoning for their decisions made. And even if they do have the rationals, they are not published to the public. So the public, as in people who are not involved with the case, will not know lah why the case was decided that way. Okay. Alright, in regards to the Franks Committee which we discussed in the textbook, ini adalah sejarah bagaimana wujudnya tribunals, kenapa tiba-tiba tribunals ni wujud. So dia hasil daripada investigation by the Franks Committee in England lah. Okay, so they make suggestion kerana antara sebabnya court tu lambat. Jadi mereka ingin mewujudkan satu badan lain untuk mengendalikan beberapa situasi berkaitan dengan administrators and authorities. Alright, just to give you an examples of some of the tribunals we have in Malaysia, we have the Industrial Court. Okay, the Industrial Court ni nama dia mahkamah lah, tapi sebenarnya dia adalah satu bentuk tribunal because dia bukan mahkamah penuh ya. So usually cases brought to the Industrial Court involved disputes between employers and their associations, their union. Ni antara pekerja dengan bos lah. Okay, so cases melibatkan Industrial Court. Okay, kalau boleh baca dia punya composition dia, siapa, macam mana case didengar, and then what would happen in the end. Okay, so decisions are reached by a majority. So dia bukan seorang lah, dia ada panel yang dengar case ya. And then satu lagi, ni kita biasa dengar recently, sebab we have cases like Datuk Seri Najib personally yang bawa case ke Income Tax Commissioner. Income Tax Commissioner ni, kalau you rasa macam you have been taxed beyond the usual amount that you used to pay and you tak rasa you're not satisfied with the amount asked, so instead of bringing the case to court directly, what you can do, you can actually bring the case to the tax commissioner, and then the tax commissioner will re-evaluate lah based on whatever evidence, documents that you have. You can also call witnesses to cross-examine to see whether ada justification tak for your complaints, for your appeal, for whatever payment you're supposed to pay. Okay, so you can appeal to the Chief Director of the Tax Commissioner. Alright, let's say if you failed under the claim through the Tax Commissioner, Income Tax Commissioner, you can still refer the case to the court, to the High Court. Okay. And then of course there are from time to time, the government will declare the establishment of public inquiries. So we have the what do you call it? The allowance to introduce, establish public inquiries from time to time based on the Commission of Inquiry Act 1950. So we do have a couple of inquiries made before this. Let me just remember one example. Antaranya pasal forex baru ni kan. So we have forex inquiry. I try and Google it up and see whether they have a report. So I can pull it up, show you. Okay, so this is the news from 2017. Just stop presenting for a while and show you this newspaper clipping. Okay. Right, so you can see this. This is a form of the Royal Commission or a commission inquiry made. So this one is published in a newspaper in what do you call it? Singapore at that time. So based on the inquiry into the foreign exchange losses, it has recommended that the former Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir, and opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim be investigated for criminal breach of trust offences. The findings were tabled in Parliament, but they were not debated. Okay, but until today tak ada apa-apa ni lah outcome lagi from this. It's just so kadang-kadang royal inquiry ni dia tak ada taring lah, maksudnya dia just investigating and then they have a report and that's it. Okay, so they make the necessary statement and then that's basically it lah. Nothing, dia tak ada apa-apa kesan daripada tu kecuali kerajaan take action lah from whatever decision made by the Royal Commission. Okay. There is another example of a tribunal we call ombudsman. In fact, Malaysia has tried to emulate this, tapi masih tak berjaya. Kita emulate this using the what do we call in Malaysia, the public ada dalam ni juga, sekejap ya, I tunjuk kat bawah ni. Kita cuba tiru tapi tak berjaya sebenarnya sebab dia tidak memenuhi kriteria sebenarnya of an ombudsman. Okay, kita buat melalui Public Complaints Bureau. Let me just show you the infographic of what is an ombudsman. This one I have already shared on Google Classroom. So you boleh rujuk balik semula kat situ juga. Okay. Okay, it is. Okay, let me just besarkan. Okay. So ini adalah summary apa itu ombudsman. Let me just bring it down. Okay, so ombudsman generally means to a delegate, agent, officer, or commissioner. So its main function is to channel the public's dissatisfaction and complaints concerning a administrative action which can be considered as improper, biased, and unjust. So they could be corrected. So it is established as an additional judiciary network. So it works on the side lah. So an ombudsman's characteristic involved appointed by the legislative, that is the parliament. So it is actually a legal officer, not an executive officer. And then it is accountable to the parliament. It must be established by the constitution. It can conduct investigation, ada power to request and look at government's document, and then it can advise corrective measures. So apa advantages untuk ombudsman ni? Kalau dia rasa tak puas hati, Ombudsman ni akan himself investigate any administrative action. And then the complainant need not give a complete statement when complaining. The ombudsman will determine lah whether the complaint is reasonable or not, it is free, and then all complaints will not be published. So dia lebih kita panggil apa, confidential lah. Ombudsman ada peguam masing-masing. Ombudsman also can give appropriate remedy to an individual. Then remedy tu is diiktiraf lah kiranya. So the ombudsman will be neutral from any parties, and all actions taken by an ombudsman are based on investigation. The thing is, the ombudsman was first introduced in Sweden. It is also practiced in a couple of other Scandinavian countries. So it is a very good form of tribunal. It's very independent. It has power just like the court. Okay. Tetapi di Malaysia dia tak boleh dilaksanakan kerana kita tidak masih belum mengiktiraf ombudsman dalam the constitution. Sebab kalau kata kita tak buat macam tu, pegawai kerajaan ni dia tidak akan share lah information whatever yang di request from them, sebab dia akan argue. Based on the next topic, we also have information access. Dia kata maklumat ni semua sulit, jadi kami tidak boleh share. Okay, so the nearest that the government has come to creating an ombudsman is the Public Complaints Bureau. Tapi isu dengan Public Complaints Bureau ni ialah, kalau dibaca dia punya setting up dia adalah badan yang masih tertakluk kepada kerajaan, keliling kerajaan, dan masih tertakluk di bawah KSU ataupun Ketua-Setiausaha Negara dan sebagainya. Jadi walaupun objektif dia nak resolve complaints, nak improve rate of resolving complaints dan sebagainya, dia masih tertakluk kepada bidang kuasa kerajaan dan juga birokrasi yang terlibat dalam pengurusan badan-badan kerajaan lah. Okay, so ni permanent committee dan sebagainya semua adalah badan yang berusaha untuk menjayakan lah Public Complaints Bureau ni. Okay, so in the end, there's nothing much the government can do in regards of setting up the ombudsman. Although they do have suggestion, kalau you tengok ada beberapa media information in regards to setting up an ombudsman in Malaysia. What we do have is, we do have ombudsman for financial services only, but not for overall administrators or public service punya ombudsman. We are looking forward to have it. I think we do suggest it recently. Let me just see. Okay, here it is. If I can show to you the idea of an ombudsman, which is discussed for quite some time. And I think recently the Prime Minister also have highlighted that they are going to table the ombudsman bill sometime next year. So this is the newspaper clipping. Okay. So whether it's going to come up in Parliament or not, we shall see lah. Okay. So dia kata dia akan jadi platform for the public to channel complaints and grievances against the public service delivery system and ensure the government function efficiently and effectively. So whether that will come through or not, we shall see. Okay, so by that, actually we have covered discussion on non-judicial review. It's a very simple chapter actually. Okay, all right, that's that. So any question? Okay, kalau tak ada, let me just I want to stop recording.